Jackson Hinkle.
Troublemaker.
Jackson Hinkle went on with Piers Morgan, and he dismantled the Ukraine war narrative in Piers Morgan's face, and all Piers Morgan had to come back with was ad hominem. You're bonkers. He didn't have a fact. Watch this.
Vladimir Putin invaded illegally a democratic sovereign country, has wreaked total mayhem. He's killed innocent women, children. He's bombed maternity hospitals. He's been on a barbaric rampage. Why would you choose this moment to revere him?
I mean, you can tell Piers is extra upset because he really wanted to like Jackson based solely on his hair.
We all do.
We all do.
We all do, but then he becomes a Putin fanboy.
So why this moment?
This moment to revere him.
I would choose this moment because most of what is said about Vladimir Putin in the mainstream press by talking heads like yourself is just factually not true, just like everything that people like you said about COVID.
Bam!
In your face.
In your face!
If your hair wasn't so good, I'd have him cut you off.
I think Piers got lost in his hair, and he didn't even hear him say that.
Piers, he's the cognitive dissonance of that beautiful hair and having to take.
Just like you were wrong on COVID, you're just as wrong on Ukraine, you stupid establishment tool. Here we go.
The fact of the matter is, this war that everyone talks about that so-called started on February 24, 2022, actually began in 2014 after the U.S. led a violent coup on the Ukrainian government that was democratically elected. When people, specifically ethnic Russians in the Donbass, decided that they didn't want a U.S.-installed puppet government filled with Nazis, they vocalized their opinions. And for that, they were met with violence and aggression by the Ukrainian government, who slaughtered them for 8 years. 15,000 people died in this fighting while Putin tried to achieve peace through the Minsk Accords and the Minsk II Accords, all of which ended up being rejected by the Ukrainian government at the behest of Germany and the United States. The Ukrainian government continued to push forward despite the fact that Putin wanted peace, and they said that they wanted to join NATO. They said they wanted to have nukes right on Russia's border. And because of that, Putin stepped in and said, hey, look, we're going to stop the bloodshed. We're going to stop the NATO escalation. We're going to stop the risk of potentially this unfolding into a full-fledged nuclear war. And we're going to do what needs to be done. We're going to liberate the ethnic Russians in Ukraine. We're going to de-NATO-fy Ukraine, and we're going to de-Nazify Ukraine.
All right, I've given you a good chance to answer that.
Oh my God, Piers!
I was surprised that Piers let him go on that long.
His dick was so hard he couldn't think.
All the blood has gone from his brain to his dick.
That's my theory. Piers' dick was so hard. Wait, I'm back.
Hang on.
Get out of here!
Come on, you crazy kid. Watch what he says.
I've got to say, a lot of that I thought was a crock of crap. Genuine.
A lot of that was a crock of crap. He won't say what. He never says what. A lot of that was a crock of crap.
Which parts?
Which parts?
Or is he doesn't say in his pants right now after that beautiful Jackson monologue?
The connection went down, so there's no conspiracy. We weren't trying to silence you. No, I just find it odd. I mean, for argument's sake, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, did you feel that he was a peace-loving guy that we should be distinct?
But you notice he didn't say, remember when George Bush invaded Iraq? He doesn't bring that up.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
It's crazy to bring up Saddam
Hussein from 1991.
I would have thought
he's talking about 1991, Kurt.
Yeah, like my amateur response, but at the first part of the question, I would bring up the U.S. and Iraq. Like, if somebody go, that's the past. He actually went further back.
He went a decade further back.
Which, by the way, they were drinking Saddam's milkshake. If you ever saw There Will Be Blood, slant drilling.
Yes, right. Here we go.
The supporting, or did you agree with American conservatives then that what should actually happen is Desert Storm and General Schwarzkopf should be leading the American charge to repel him?
So I don't know. So Piers thinks this is a good argument, like a gotcha. Oh. Hey, what, you can't say you were against us taking care outside of Hussein in Kuwait. Yeah, 10 years later it was but that before. So watch what he says.
If you felt the latter, why would you feel differently about someone like Putin doing this in Ukraine?
Well, I don't know if you know, Piers, I'm only 23 years old, so I didn't have fully fledged opinions on that at the time. But what I think is very interesting is for all the Western officials that are so outraged over what Putin is doing in Ukraine. Why were they not outraged over what NATO did to Yugoslavia or what NATO did to Libya or what the United States did in Iraq and Afghanistan or Syria? The United States drone operation program in Africa had a 95% civilian death rate. For everyone to be so up in arms over Putin liberating these ethnic Russians in Ukraine from Nazis, it is just, I have no...
Listen, Jackson, the trouble is, some of the stuff you said in your initial response is historically defensible. You can argue from 2014, there's been this issue there. I get that. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. But when you say that Putin's only game here is to go and liberate the Ukrainians from Nazis, you just sound completely bonkers.
That's it. That's his whole argument is crock of crap and you sound bonkers. That's his whole argument. Oh, and then he had that stupid thing about Saddam Hussein and Kuwait. These are his arguments.
Look what it says under there. Most censored man on YouTube accused of being former socialist.
All right, here we go.
It's not to say there aren't some far-right people with Nazi tendencies in Ukraine. There are, as there are in many countries. But the idea this is a Nazi-run country when the president is Jewish, never mind anything else, is laughably ridiculous.
Well, just because he's Jewish doesn't mean he's not sicking his Azov Nazi thugs on ethnic Russians in the Donbass.
You think a Jewish president is going to be actively promoting Nazism? That's
correct.
Your position.
The ones with swastika tattoos and Hitler tattoos in Mariupol.
You know what,
Jackson? What I'll say, Pierce, one question. What I'll say is, if you're so outraged over the atrocities allegedly of Putin in Ukraine and all these Ukrainians that have been killed, and you tweet about it nonstop, why did you not tweet once about the atrocities that were perpetrated by the Ukrainian government from 2014 to 2022 against those ethnic Russians in the Donbass?
Well, yeah, Kostic.
Well, my family.
He had no answer. So he throws it to this guy, the host of Trigger Pod.
Yeah. What happened?
He throws it to that guy. I don't know. I don't think...
Actually, largely ethnic.
We can probably explore this in more detail. I mean, Will Jackson, I've got no desire to censor you, to stop you having your views. You're entitled to them. I will challenge them. We've run out of time tonight, but I think we should do this again another time.
Let's get dinner.
You can have a platform here. We can talk about these things because a lot of people...
What are you doing this weekend?
Let's get dinner. How would you react if I put my hand on your thigh during dinner?
Only 23, you say. Oh, my. I don't blame him. I'd have dinner with him. He's a little jerk, but there's a twinkle in his eye and in his hair.
Let's see.
Seem to agree with you, which I find baffling, but that's the reality. So thank you for joining Piers Morgan on Senses tonight.
Okay, so that was it. That was very well done, Jackson. He nailed him. And I didn't get to hear the other guy's part. But Jackson has found so that other guy was on Piers Morgan's side. That's the guy from Triggered Pod.
He was?
Yeah. And
what does he think's going on over there?
And then Jackson did some research and found out that his dad used to work for Boris Yeltsin.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Then how does he not know better?
White Hammer. So this is this whole idea that there aren't Nazis running things in Ukraine.
White Hammer.
This is from the New York Times. White Hammer and the Trident of Stefan Bandera. The Azov group is openly neo-Nazi using the wolf's hook symbol.
Wait, so is White Hammer? I like that. Well, Azov, they're not all neo-Nazi. Like White Hammer is just like really close to it, and they're called White Hammer.
I refuse to believe the Putin propaganda that a group called White Hammer could possibly be Nazis.
I can't.
That is a Putin talking point that the New York Times printed. Aaron Mate says, so here, look at White Hammer Group. He retweets this. It's commanders of Ukraine celebrated Azov. So he shows it. He shows in 2015, they were called neo-Nazis. And now in 2022, they're called celebrated. Wow. Well, technically, Aaron, that is what happened. They are Nazis, and now America celebrates them. So they were being actually true. Nailed it. There it is. Celebrated Azov Battalion have held an emotional reunion. There it is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
There it is. An emotional reunion with their families in Turkey, Ukrainian officials said. The only way this scene could be even more beautiful and more perfect is if Jon Stewart would show up and hang a medal on one of those Nazis.
If Sean Penn gave him an Oscar.
Here it is. So you want to know that this is what they used to say. So this is from June 7, 2023. Nazi symbols on Ukraine's front lines highlights thorny issues of history.
Oh, is it a thorny issue? It's complicated, Jimmy. Jimmy, it's complicated.
Troops' use of patches bearing Nazi emblems risks fueling Russian propaganda and spreading imagery that the West has spent half a century trying to eliminate. So, half a century trying to eliminate Nazi symbols? Has it been that long, Kurt? Yeah. Imagine if we'd spent that time eliminating the actual Nazis instead of just their symbols. Yeah. So basically the West is like a shitty landlord painting over black mold on the ceiling instead of getting the pipes fixed.
They literally say in the thing, they go, them having the Nazi emblems will spread Russia's propaganda, which happens to be true that they have Nazi emblems. And we've been fighting so hard to suppress the truth that they have Nazi emblems. Oh, no.
Oh, now they're going to say they're Nazis just because they like to wear Nazi emblems. That's what they're saying. So now Putin's going to say they're Nazis. Why? Because they're wearing swastikas. And that's going to lead into propaganda that they're Nazis.
A Ukraine service member is wearing what appears to be a black sun on the chest of her uniform. It appears to be the black sun. Now, I can't confirm or deny it. You mean because it is that? Because it's a Nazi symbol?
Amazing article from the New York Times about the rather uncomfortable fact that photos of Ukrainian soldiers in leading battalions so often include Nazi symbols and flags. For a decade, the Western press warned Ukraine's fighters were dominated by Nazi units. They did.
Guys, you risk fueling propaganda. Stop it.
Hey, why was the press even warning about Nazis in Ukraine for years at all? Didn't their controllers in the intel community see this problem coming?
Yeah, I do wonder that, kind of.
I mean, didn't they know? They all knew we were going to use Ukraine as a proxy war with Russia, meaning the CIA.
Uh-huh.
And so why wouldn't they tell all the...
we had Nazi fever because of the Charlottesville.
Oh.
And Trump said, good. This is what's amazing. Oh, it's thorny, the history, Nazis and this and Nazis. Trump, the good people on both sides, quote, which before that he goes, no one's saying Nazis are good. Of course, I condemn them. He's talking about the stupid statue fight.
Right.
That was, oh my God, a literal Hitler is in the White House. So then it was advantageous to mention all the, because a lot of alt-right people ended up going to Ukraine because they get it.
Isn't it funny how Western articles before 2022 were documenting Ukraine neo-Nazism, and all of a sudden, Western media is like, there are no Nazis in Ukraine, and meanwhile, soldiers wearing totem cups, I don't know what that is, and black sun start appearing in the media. So here's all the...
Oh, the blood, the skull, totem kump his head.
Is that what that's... Here's all the articles talking about neo-Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Atlantic Council, that's... all the articles, even Bellingcat. Yes, it's still okay to call Ukraine C-14 neo-Nazis. Even
What?
Bellingcat, which is completely CIA funded.
Well,
even they were saying that.
Because there was a rise of the far right everywhere. Remember, Jimmy? It's like how COVID spread, and the far right was spreading to America. Seeing all these places, like, for example, even Ukraine has a huge far right problem. They're communicating. That's why I knew about it. Because they were talking so much about how scary and right-wing America is. Proud Boys are out there.
This is the BBC. Ukraine underplays role of far right in conflict.
This is
underplays. Yeah. Now they're all underplaying it.
Now we have to because of this.
Yes.
So they're like, okay, off that propaganda. Now this is the insult to your intelligence is so high that you're supposed to forget the thing they just said and just get the new thing in there. And then just play dumb when someone brings up the thing that just happened.
Come see our live shows. We're going to be in Chicago, Rosemont, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Toronto, Toledo, Detroit, St. Louis, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.